The neon lights of the gas station flickered against the dusky sky as I pulled in to fill my tank. My throat was parched, so I decided to grab a bottle of water before heading to my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner. As I walked back to my car, a familiar glint caught my eye in the far corner of the lot, a Silverati. Robert's car. My husband had told me he was working late and would meet me at the venue. A strange unease crept up my spine when I noticed movement inside the vehicle. I stepped closer, gripping my water bottle tightly. The windows were slightly fogged, but I could make out two figures. My breath caught when I recognized the emerald green fabric being adjusted between them, the same shade as the bridesmaid dresses for my sister's wedding. The very dress I had helped Sheila, my friend of 15 years, pick up just yesterday. My legs moved before my mind caught up. By the time I reached the car, the sight before me shattered the world I thought I knew. Robert, my husband of 11 years, was helping Sheila, my supposed friend and fellow bridesmaid, fix the zipper of her dress. Her partially exposed back and the placement of his hands left little doubt about what had been happening moments earlier. Their heads snapped up in unison. Robert's face drained of color. Sheila's eyes widened in shock. "Tina," Robert stammered, his voice cracking. "This isn't—" I raised a hand to silence him, the fluorescent lights glinting off my wedding ring. "Save it." Sheila scrambled to cover herself. "Tina, please, we can explain—" A hollow laugh escaped me, foreign even to my own ears. I took a step back, my mind spiraling through 11 years of marriage, 3 years of friendship with Sheila, countless dinners, vacations, and the dozens of late nights Robert had claimed to be working. "You can explain at the rehearsal dinner," I said evenly. "I'm sure my sister would love to hear this story too." I turned and walked back to my car, my legs somehow supporting me though they felt ready to collapse. Behind me, I heard Robert call my name, the slam of a door and frantic movement. I slid into my seat, locked the doors, and sat still, watching them fumble and argue from afar. My phone buzzed repeatedly, calls and texts from both of them, but I flipped it face down on the passenger seat. The gas station attendant glanced at me with concern. I offered him a faint smile, started the car, and drove off, away from the rehearsal dinner. I needed space. Time to think. To plan. What they didn't realize was that I had pressed record the moment I saw them. The conversation I captured would be only the beginning of what I had in store for both of them. My name is Tina Westbrook, 36, a corporate attorney at one of Chicago's top firms. I've built my career on being meticulous, strategic, and always prepared for every possible outcome. Those traits had served me well in court, but I never thought I'd need them in my marriage. Robert and I met in law school. He was charming, ambitious, and seemed to check every box on my carefully curated life plan. We married a year after graduation and moved to Chicago to pursue our careers. No children. We'd agreed to focus on our professional lives first. I believed we were perfectly aligned. Sheila entered our lives 3 years ago when she joined my sister Leah's yoga studio. The three of us bonded quickly, and soon she was a fixture at our dinners and weekend getaways. When Leah got engaged 6 months ago, she asked both of us to be bridesmaids. I pulled into a parking spot at Lincoln Park and shut off the engine. The crisp evening air hit me as I stepped out, desperate to breathe. My phone showed 27 missed calls and 15 messages. Robert's texts flashed first. "It's not what you think. Please come to the dinner. We can talk after. Don't do anything rash." Sheila's followed. "I'm so sorry. Please let me explain. It just happened. We never meant to hurt you. Please answer your phone." I let out a bitter laugh. It just happened. As though falling into my husband's bed were some kind of accident. I pressed play on the recording from the gas station. Their voices filled the silence. "She almost caught us," Sheila whispered, breathless. "Don't worry," Robert replied. "She's too wrapped up in her sister's wedding to notice anything. We should be more careful after the wedding. After the wedding, we'll figure something out. I promise." I stopped the recording, my hands trembling with rage. After the wedding. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. It had been planned. They had been plotting their future together while sitting across from me at dinner parties, laughing over wine in my own home. My phone buzzed again. It was my sister, Leah. I took a deep breath and answered. "Where are you?" she asked, worry clear in her voice. "Robert and Sheila just arrived, separately, but they both look like they've seen a ghost." "I'm not coming," I said flatly. "And I think you should remove Sheila from the wedding party." "What?" "Tina, what's going on?" I caught them together. "Robert and Sheila. They've been having an affair." The silence on the other end stretched out for several seconds before Leah gasped. "Are you serious? That can't be." "I saw them with my own eyes, Leah. At the gas station on Fullerton. She was half dressed in his car." "Oh my God, Tina. What can I do?" "Should I come to you?" "No," I said firmly. "This is your rehearsal dinner. Enjoy it." "I'll be fine. Tina, I just need some time alone to think. But do me a favor." "Anything. Don't let them know I told you. Act normal. I'll handle this my way." After hanging up, I sat watching the sunset over the lake, the colors bleeding across the water. My entire life had shattered at a gas station of all places. The sheer absurdity of it almost made me laugh. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small notebook I always carried for work notes. On a clean page, I wrote one word at the top: options. As a lawyer, I knew evidence and strategy were everything. I turned my wedding ring between my fingers and made my decision. I wouldn't simply walk away. I wouldn't just file for divorce. I would make sure they both paid for what they'd done. Robert and Sheila had no idea they'd betrayed not just a wife, but a strategist. A woman who made her living dismantling opponents' defenses and exposing their weakest points. And I was ready to turn every one of those skills against them. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a downtown hotel and started making calls. First to my law partner, Diane, letting her know I'd be taking a personal day. Then to a private investigator I'd worked with before. Lastly, to my bank to ask about our joint accounts. By morning, my plan was already forming. I showered, ordered room service, and dressed in clothes I'd picked up from the hotel boutique. My phone showed 15 more missed calls: Robert, Sheila, and several from Leah. I texted my sister, "I'm safe. We'll talk later." Then I dialed Robert. He answered on the first ring. "Tina, where are you?" "I've been worried sick. Have you?" My voice stayed steady, unnervingly calm. "I'm coming home to get some things. Be there in an hour." "Tina, please, we need to talk about what you saw." "1 hour, Robert." "Be there." I hung up before he could respond and drove toward our Lincoln Park brownstone, the home we'd bought 3 years ago. The kitchen Robert had insisted on remodeling gleamed through the windows, and the guest room upstairs still carried memories of when Sheila temporarily stayed with us after her apartment flooded last year. Robert was pacing in the living room when I walked in. He looked awful, unshaven, hollow-eyed, still in yesterday's clothes. "Tina, thank God." He took a step toward me, but I lifted a hand to stop him. "I'm just here for some clothes." I brushed past him toward the stairs. "It wasn't what it looked like," he blurted. "Sheila was just trying on her dress and the zipper got stuck." "I was helping her." I turned slowly. "In her car? At a gas station?" "She called me in a panic," he insisted. "The dress was giving her trouble on her way to the rehearsal dinner." "I was just helping." His eyes searched mine, desperate. "It was innocent. And I suppose your hand on her breast was also helping with the zipper?" I asked, voice like glass. He froze, his face crumpling. "Tina, how long?" "What? How long have you been sleeping with my friend?" Robert ran a shaky hand through his hair, a gesture I used to find endearing. "It's not like that. It was just one time, a mistake." "I have the recording, Robert." I pulled out my phone. "From the gas station. The part where you two discuss after the wedding. So I'll ask again. How long?" The color drained from his face as I pressed play. His own voice echoed through the room. "After the wedding, we'll figure something out. I promise." 6 months, he finally admitted, sinking onto the sofa. "It started at Christmas." "Christmas," I repeated quietly. "When Sheila joined us for the holidays because her family was in Europe." When I'd worked extra hours closing a case, leaving them alone together, I'd thought nothing of it. Now, that memory made the betrayal cut even deeper. Does anyone else know? I asked. No, of course not. He looked up suddenly, a spark of hope in his eyes. Tina, we can fix this. It was a mistake. I'll end it with Sheila. We can go to counseling. I laughed, short, sharp, and bitter enough to make him flinch. You still don't get it, do you? There's nothing to fix. Please, he said, rising to his feet, desperation etched across his face. 11 years of marriage. You can't throw that away over one mistake. 6 months of betrayal isn't one mistake, Robert. It's a choice you made every single day. I turned toward the stairs. And by the way, Sheila won't be in the wedding anymore. Leah asked her to step down this morning. You told your sister? Panic flickered across his features. Of course I did, I said calmly. And I wonder who else should know. Your mother, the partners at your firm, our friends. I tapped my chin thoughtfully. Tina, don't, he pleaded, his voice breaking. This could ruin everything. You should have thought of that before you ruined our marriage. I walked upstairs, leaving him slumped on the couch. In our bedroom, I methodically packed a suitcase, just essentials. Then I opened the hidden safe in the closet where I kept important documents. As I reached for my passport, my fingers brushed against a small velvet box. Inside was the anniversary gift I'd bought weeks ago, a vintage watch Robert had admired. I snapped the box shut and left it there. Then I slipped off my wedding and engagement rings, placing them neatly on the dresser. When I came back downstairs, Robert was on the phone. His voice was low, urgent. He ended the call abruptly when he saw me. Sheila, I asked, though I already knew. He swallowed hard. She's devastated, Tina. About the wedding, about us. She never meant to hurt you. How considerate of her, I said coolly, setting my suitcase by the door. I'll be staying elsewhere for a while. Don't try to contact me. My lawyer will be in touch. Lawyer? His face went pale. Tina, don't do this. We don't need lawyers, I smiled coldly. Actually, we do. Check your email in an hour. As I turned to leave, Robert grabbed my wrist. I still love you, he whispered, his eyes wet with tears. This thing with Sheila, it doesn't change how I feel about you. I looked down at his hand, then back into his eyes. But it changes everything about how I feel about you. He released me, looking hollow and broken. For a fleeting moment, I felt the ache of what we'd been. 11 years of memories, dreams, and plans reduced to ash by one night at a gas station. At the door, I paused. By the way, I've frozen our joint accounts. Consider it a professional courtesy that I'm telling you. What? Robert didn't realize as I walked. Out was that I'd already retained not only a divorce attorney but also a forensic accountant, one who specialized in tracing hidden assets. And the preliminary findings on Robert's finances over the last 6 months would give me everything. I needed to ensure his betrayal cost him far more than just a marriage. The days before my sister's wedding passed in a blur of meetings and evidence gathering. I stayed at Diane's guest house, grateful for her discretion and quiet support. Leah had personally called Sheila to remove her from the bridal party, replacing her with a cousin at the last minute. She cried, Leah told me over coffee the day before the wedding. Said it was a terrible mistake and she'd do anything to make it up to you. I'm sure she would, I said, stirring my latte. Did she also mention they've been sleeping together since Christmas? Leah's eyes widened. 6 months? That's not a mistake, Tina. That's a relationship. Exactly. What are you going to do? She asked quietly. I smiled. First, I'm going to be an amazing maid of honor tomorrow. Your wedding will be perfect. No one will even suspect a thing. And after that, I take my life back. The morning of the wedding, I held myself together flawlessly. I helped Leah into her dress, adjusted her veil, and kept the bridesmaids organized. My parents, blissfully unaware of my imploding marriage, commented on Robert's absence. Last-minute work emergency, I said smoothly. He's devastated to miss it. The ceremony was beautiful. As I stood beside my sister, I caught sight of Robert slipping quietly into the back of the church. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second before I turned away, focusing on Leah's radiant smile. At the reception, he found me at the bar. "You look beautiful," he said softly. "Thank you," I replied evenly. "Why are you here?" "I was invited," he said, voice low. "And I wanted to see you." I turned to face him completely. "Well, here I am, enjoying my sister's wedding, while my husband and my friend betray me." "Anything else, Tina? Please, can we talk somewhere private?" "No, I'm busy." "I ended it with Sheila," he blurted. "Completely. It's over." I let out a soft laugh, catching the bartender's curious glance. "Congratulations on doing the bare minimum a husband should do. I want to fix this. Whatever it takes." I lifted my champagne glass. "It's too late, Robert. The divorce papers have been filed. You'll be served on Monday." His face went pale. "Tina, and just so you know," I interrupted, "the forensic accountant found the transfers to your private account. The one you opened 6 months ago." "Interesting timing," Robert stiffened. "That's not what you think. It never is it?" I turned to leave, but he caught my arm. "Those transfers were for an investment opportunity. I was going to surprise you." "With what? The apartment you leased on Oak Street? The one you've been taking Sheila to?" I tilted my head, watching his stunned expression. "You really shouldn't use our joint credit card points for Uber rides to your love nest." The statements tell the whole story. I pulled my arm free and rejoined the wedding party, maintaining my smile through dinner and toasts. During my maid of honor speech, I spoke about love, commitment, and honesty, my gaze occasionally drifting to Robert's uneasy figure at a distant table. Later, as the dancing began, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Sheila. We need to talk. I'm outside." I excused myself and found her waiting in the hotel lobby, looking miserable in a plain black dress. "You have exactly 1 minute," I said, glancing at my watch. "Tina, I know nothing I say can fix this. But you should know, Robert didn't pursue me." "I pursued him," her voice trembled. "He tried to end it multiple times." "Is that supposed to make me feel better? That my friend aggressively seduced my husband?" I laughed coldly. "Time's up." "Wait, there's something else." She grabbed my arm. "Robert told me you're divorcing him, that you found the financial records, but there's something you don't know." Despite myself, I paused. "What?" "The apartment wasn't for us. It was for his mother." Tears filled her eyes. "She's sick, Tina. Stage 3 cancer. He didn't want to worry you with all your work stress, so he's been helping her move closer to the city for treatment." For a moment, doubt flickered, but clarity returned just as quickly. If that were true, why wouldn't he tell me this morning when I mentioned the apartment? Sheila's eyes darted away. I don't know. You're lying again." I stepped closer. "Here's what I do know. You and Robert have been having an affair for 6 months. You've been in my home. You looked me in the eye, accepted my friendship, all while sleeping with my husband. And now you're trying to manipulate me with a sick mother story." "It's the truth," she insisted. "Call his mother if you don't believe me." I did, this afternoon. She's on a Mediterranean cruise with her bridge club. Posted pictures yesterday from Santorini. I watched realization dawn on Sheila's face. "You really should coordinate your lies better, Sheila. I have to get back to my sister's wedding, but do me a favor. Deliver a message to Robert." I stepped closer. "Tell him I found the text between you two on his cloud backup. Tell him I have copies of everything, the photos, the videos, the plans you made together." I smiled thinly. "And tell him the name of my divorce attorney is Richard Thornton. Perhaps he's heard of him. He handled the Stevens divorce last year." The husband got absolutely nothing. I walked away, leaving Sheila frozen in the lobby. Back at the reception, I danced with my father, laughed with my cousins, and celebrated my sister's happiness as if my world hadn't shattered days earlier. Later, when I checked my phone, there was a text from Robert. "Whatever you want. Just name it." What neither Robert nor Sheila realized, as they scrambled to salvage their reputations, was that I had already forwarded their explicit messages to myself before deleting them from Robert's phone during my evidence gathering. Messages that detailed not only their affair, but also Robert's questionable financial activities, information that would soon become the backbone of the most aggressive divorce strategy his prestigious law firm had ever seen. By Monday morning, the pieces were already in motion. Robert was served divorce papers at his office, per my specific request to the process server. By noon, my phone was flooded with calls from him, his lawyer, and mutual friends who'd caught wind of our split. I ignored them all and focused on my meeting with Marcus, my investigator, who handed me a comprehensive report detailing Robert and Sheila's activities over the past 6 months. They've been meeting 3 times a week. Consistently, Marcus explained, spreading a series of photographs across my office desk. Usually at the Oak Street apartment. Occasionally at hotels when they were traveling for work. I flipped through the images. Robert and Sheila entering buildings together, sharing intimate dinners, holding hands in a Boston hotel lobby where Robert had supposedly attended a solo conference in March. And here's the financial breakdown, Marcus continued, handing me another folder. The apartment lease, hotel charges, gifts, mostly jewelry from Tiffany's, and several large transfers to a separate account. These transfers, I pointed to the largest ones, almost $200,000 in total. Any idea what they were for? That's where it gets interesting, Marcus said, smiling slightly. They weren't for Sheila. They were investments in a restaurant venture. A sushi place opening in River North next month. A restaurant? I frowned. Robert despises the restaurant business. He's always called it a money pit. Well, his new business partner might have changed his mind. Marcus slid another photo toward me. It showed Robert shaking hands with a handsome young chef. Meet Kai Tanaka, executive chef and, according to my sources, Sheila's ex-boyfriend. The pieces snapped together in my mind. So Sheila introduced them and Robert invested our money without telling me. Exactly. And here's where it gets even better for your case. Marcus tapped the report. The money came from your joint savings, but the investment is listed solely in Robert's name. I leaned back in my chair, letting the implications sink in. He diverted marital assets into a personal investment, I said slowly, which, as I recall from other attorneys' cases, is highly problematic in divorce proceedings. I gave a cold smile. Especially in Illinois. I thanked Marcus and arranged for all the evidence to be sent directly to my divorce attorney. Then I called Richard Thornton to update him on the findings. This changes our strategy, Richard said after I finished. With this level of financial misconduct, we can push for a much more aggressive settlement. I want the house, I said firmly. And I want a stake in that restaurant. We'll get it. His lawyer called this morning to feel out our position. They're already nervous. Good. After the call, I checked my messages, 3 from Robert, each one more desperate than the last. Tina, please call me back. We need to talk about these divorce papers. My lawyer says you're asking for everything. That's not fair. Please, Tina. I made a mistake, but you're destroying my life. I deleted them all without hesitation. I was about to set my phone down when it rang again. Sheila. Against my better judgment, I answered. What do you want? I said flatly. You have to stop this, she blurted. The divorce is one thing, but you're trying to take everything from him. Interesting that you think you have any say in my divorce proceedings. He made a mistake. We both did, but you're being vindictive now, I laughed softly. Vindictive would be sending those photos to your parents. Vindictive would be forwarding your text to our entire social circle. I'm simply making sure I get what I deserve in my divorce. He told me what you're asking for. The house, his savings, even his stake in the restaurant. That's his dream, Tina. A dream he built with my money behind my back while sleeping with you, I said calmly. Tell me, Sheila, did you really think you two would get away with it? That I'd just walk away quietly? We never meant to hurt you, she whispered, and yet you did, repeatedly, for months. I paused, then added lightly, by the way, how's Kai? Her sharp intake of breath confirmed Marcus's theory. What does Kai have to do with this? Your ex-boyfriend, Robert's new business partner. I find it interesting that you failed to mention that connection to me. I tapped my pen against my desk. I wonder if Robert knows you're still in touch with him. That's not... We're just friends. Save it, Sheila. I've seen the text messages between you and Kai from last month. Very friendly. The silence on the other end stretched several seconds. How did you... I'm thorough, I cut in smoothly. And unlike my husband, I don't underestimate women. That evening, I met my sister and brother-in-law for dinner at their apartment. They'd returned early from their honeymoon after hearing about everything. How are you holding up? Leah asked, pouring me a glass of wine. Better than expected, I admitted. Keeping busy with the divorce proceedings. Robert called me, she said hesitantly. He's a mess. Said you're taking everything. Not everything, I corrected, sipping my wine. Just what's mine. He said you're even going after his restaurant investment. Did he mention that he used our joint savings without my knowledge or consent? I asked coolly. Or that Sheila's ex-boyfriend happens to be his business partner? Leah's eyes widened. No, she said quietly. He left those details out. I thought he might, I said with a faint smile. But enough about my disaster. How was Bora Bora? Later that night, as I returned to Diane's guest house, a text from Robert appeared on my phone. I'll give you the house. I'll give you whatever financial settlement you want. Just please don't take the restaurant. I've worked too hard on this. I typed back, you should have thought about that before you used our money to fund it. His reply came almost instantly. What do you want, Tina? Tell me, and it's yours. I stared at the screen for a long moment before responding. I want a meeting tomorrow. You, me, Sheila, and Kai, 7 p.m. at the Oak Street apartment. What does he have to do with this? He wrote back, everything. Search PM all of you, or the deal's off. What Robert couldn't possibly know was that I had already spoken to Kai earlier that day, sharing carefully chosen text messages between Robert and Sheila that exposed their true intentions for the restaurant. Not merely a business venture, but a vehicle to launder money from Robert's firm through creative accounting. A scheme that would not only destroy his legal career but give me complete leverage to ensure I walked away with everything I wanted. And more. The Oak Street apartment was exactly as I'd imagined. Sleek, modern, expensive, the perfect hideaway for my husband and former friend. I arrived at 6:45 p.m., using the duplicate key I'd made from Robert's copy during my evidence-gathering phase. I took my time exploring. The premium kitchen appliances, Italian furniture, the king-sized bed draped in Egyptian cotton sheets, all paid for with marital funds, all meticulously documented by my forensic accountant. At precisely 7 p.m., the door opened. Robert entered first, stopping short when he saw me already seated at the dining table. Sheila followed, color draining from her face when our eyes met. Finally came Kai, tall, composed, and visibly uneasy. Thank you all for coming, I said pleasantly, as if hosting a casual dinner party. Please sit down, Robert approached cautiously. Tina, before we start, I just want to say... Save it, I interrupted coolly. This isn't about apologies. It's about resolution. They sat opposite me, forming a tense, uneasy triangle. On the table before me were 3 folders. I've brought copies for everyone, I explained, sliding a folder to each of them. Go ahead, take a look. They opened the folders simultaneously. Inside were printed text messages, financial records, and photos, each carefully curated for its recipient. Robert's folder contained Sheila's intimate texts with Kai from the past 2 months. Sheila's folder held documents detailing Robert's plan to buy out Kai once the restaurant launched. Kai's folder revealed evidence of Robert's creative accounting strategies for the business. The room went silent as the weight of the information sank in. Robert's face flushed with anger as he turned to Sheila. She stared at her folder in disbelief. Kai's expression hardened as he flipped through the pages. What is this? Robert demanded finally. This, I said calmly, is why we're all here, to address the deception that seems to be the foundation of your relationships and your business venture. These texts are private. Sheila snapped, rounding on Kai. How did she... Is this true? Kai held up his folder, cutting her off. Robert, you were planning to force me out. Robert's eyes darted nervously between them. That's just preliminary planning. Nothing was decided. And this? I tapped a page in Kai's folder. The plan to run personal expenses through the restaurant to hide assets from your firm's profit-sharing structure and from the IRS. Robert's face drained of color. Those were just ideas. Notes. Nothing implemented. Ideas that amount to fraud, I said evenly. Felony fraud, Kai slammed the folder shut. I want out. I'm not risking my career for this. Kai, wait, Sheila pleaded, grabbing his arm. We can explain. Robert's voice cut through hers, rising sharply. What do you mean, we? You told me you ended things with him months ago. The room erupted into chaos, accusations flying across the table. Sheila had been seeing Kai while with Robert. Robert had been plotting to cut Kai out. Both had been lying to each other while betraying me. I leaned back, watching the implosion with detached composure, occasionally sipping from the water bottle I'd brought. Finally, when their shouting began to loop in circles, I cleared my throat. As entertaining as this is, let's return to the purpose of this meeting. I placed a document on the table. My revised settlement proposal. Robert eyed it warily. What's changed? I'm willing to let you keep half your stake in the restaurant, I said. Provided Kai remains the majority owner with 51%. You drop to 24.5. I retain the remaining 24.5. Half my stake? Robert protested. That's still taking... It's considerably more generous than my original demand for your entire investment, I reminded him coolly. And given what Kai now knows about your intentions, I suggest you think carefully, he said, his tone even. I'll only continue with this venture under those conditions, and with full oversight of all accounting. Robert ran a hand through his hair. And the rest of the settlement remains as stated. I get the house, my full share of our savings, plus the amount you diverted without my consent and my attorney's fees covered. That's everything, Tina. What am I supposed to live on? He asked, exasperated. Your salary, I said simply. Last I checked, it was substantial. You'll manage, Robert, unlike our marriage. Sheila, who had been uncharacteristically quiet until then, finally spoke up. And what about me? What do you want from me? I turned to her, my expression cold. Nothing. You've already lost your reputation among our friends. Your spot is my sister's bridesmaid, and apparently both men in this absurd triangle you created. I'd say that's punishment enough. I stood and gathered my belongings. My attorney will contact yours tomorrow, Robert. I suggest you accept this offer because the alternative is me taking everything and reporting your creative accounting practices to the Bar Association. At the door, I paused and looked back. Oh, and I've arranged for movers to come Thursday. I'll be returning to our house. My house now. You have until then to collect your personal items. The three of them sat frozen in silence as I walked out, closing the door firmly behind me. In the hallway, I drew my first steady breath in what felt like days. My hands trembled slightly, adrenaline still coursing through me. Outside, the Chicago evening was warm, the sky streaked in shades of orange and pink. I walked 3 blocks before calling a rideshare, using the time to steady myself. My phone buzzed with a message from Robert. I'll sign. 2 simple words that ended 11 years together. I should have felt sadness, maybe even regret. Instead, I felt something entirely different. Freedom. What none of them realized was that the most important document wasn't in any of their folders. It was already with my attorney, a recording of that entire meeting, legally obtained under Illinois' one-party consent law. My insurance policy, in case any of them tried to go back on our agreement. 3 months after that fateful evening, at the gas station, I stood in my kitchen, pouring coffee as I reviewed documents for a case. The divorce had been finalized with remarkable speed, Robert agreeing to all my terms rather than risk his professional reputation. The house felt transformed. I'd redecorated, replacing the furniture tied to too many memories, and repainting the walls in colors I loved, but Robert had always vetoed. The master bathroom, once cluttered with his grooming products, was now a calm sanctuary of plants and candles. My phone chimed, a text from Diane. Reservation confirmed for tonight. Celebration dinner at 7. We were celebrating my promotion to senior partner, a milestone that might never have come had I stayed trapped in that marriage. Ironically, the focus and resolve born from my personal crisis had impressed the firm's leadership. As I sipped my coffee, another message appeared, this one from Leah. Have you seen the news about Sheila? I hadn't kept tabs on Sheila. I'd removed her completely from my life and social media. No, what happened? I typed back. Leah's reply came with a link to a business news article. Sheila had been terminated from her executive position after a company investigation into misuse of corporate resources. The article didn't spell out the details, but reading between the lines made it clear. She'd been caught using company funds for personal expenses. I felt no satisfaction, no vindication, just a detached acceptance that consequences always find their way home. Her downfall was her own doing, not mine. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. Through the security camera, I saw Robert standing on my porch. He looked better than the last time I'd seen him, more composed, but there was still an air of defeat about him. I considered ignoring him, but decided to face whatever this was head-on. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Robert. This is unexpected. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced, he said, his voice stripped of its old confidence. I just needed to drop this off. He handed me a thick envelope. What is this? The last of the paperwork from the restaurant restructuring. Kai wanted you to have copies, since you're officially a partner now. He hesitated. It's doing well, by the way. Reservations are booked solid for the next 2 months. Good, I said calmly. I'm glad my investment is paying off. An uneasy silence settled between us. 11 years of shared history compressed into a space neither of us could bridge. You look good, Tina, he finally said. The promotion suits you. News traveled fast in legal circles. Thank you, I replied. I'm leaving Chicago, he blurted out. Took a position with a firm in Seattle, starting fresh. I nodded, unsurprised. His reputation had taken a quiet hit after the divorce. I'd kept the details of his betrayal private, but within our social and professional circles, people had drawn their conclusions, and most had sided with me. I wish you well, Robert, I said, and realized I truly meant it. The anger that had once fueled me had burned away, leaving only a clear-eyed acceptance of what had been. I never got to properly apologize, he said, staring down at his hands. What I did was unforgivable. Not just the affair, but the lies, the financial deceit. All of it. You deserved better. Yes, I said evenly. I did. I leaned against the doorframe. But it brought me here, and I'm happier now than I've been in years. He looked up, surprised. Really? Really? Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. I needed that wake-up call to see how much I'd compromised myself in our marriage, how much I'd dimmed my own light. You're shining pretty bright now, he said softly. Senior partner at 36, I smiled. Exactly where I always planned to be. Well, I won't keep you, he said, stepping back. Take care of yourself, Tina. You too, Robert. I watched him walk to his car, a newer model, less ostentatious than the Audi he once prized. As he drove away, I felt the final thread between us snap cleanly. That evening, over dinner with Diane and a few close friends, I raised my glass. To new beginnings, hard-earned wisdom, and the family we choose. Later, as we lingered over dessert and laughter, Diane leaned in. Have you heard from Sheila since everything happened? No, I said. And I don't expect to. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. And are you seeing anyone? she teased. Thomas from corporate has been asking about you. I smiled. Not yet. I'm enjoying my own company these days, learning who I am without defining myself through someone else's eyes. Well, when you're ready, Diane said with a wink. There's no shortage of admirers. A successful, brilliant, newly single attorney who took her cheating husband to the cleaners? You're a legend. We laughed, and I felt a warmth spread through me. Not from the wine, but from the realization that I had turned pain into power. The betrayal that once shattered me had become the foundation of my strength. Walking home that night, I passed the gas station where it had all begun 4 months earlier. I paused, looking at the spot where Robert's car had been parked, where my life had split in two. Back then, I'd thought my world was ending. Now I understood it had only just begun. I continued toward the house that was now truly mine, filled not with broken promises, but with possibility. In the end, their betrayal hadn't defined me. My response to it had. A year after that night at the gas station, I stood outside Kugi, the restaurant that had once been at the heart of my divorce. As a 24.5% owner, I rarely visited, leaving operations to Kai, whose honesty and talent had exceeded every expectation. Tonight was different. Kugi had earned its first Michelin star, and as an investor, my presence was requested at the celebration. I entered alone, but not lonely. The past year had brought new friendships, deeper connections, and a sense of self that no betrayal could ever shake again. As I accepted a glass of champagne and caught Kai's appreciative nod from across the room, I smiled at the strange symmetry of it all. Sometimes, you have to get lost to find your way. Sometimes betrayal leads to rebirth. And sometimes, stopping for gas changes everything.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.